Welcome back to Moonlit Journal. Today is an exciting video because this is my first ever fountain pen purchase. So I will be unboxing my first fountain pen with you all. I recently mentioned this in my 2025 anti-haul video. I had kind of a whole rant in that video about fountain pens and how I've recently fallen down the rabbit hole of fountain pens and that I want to kind of start dipping my toes into this hobby, but very slowly and mindfully, because I have also seen, just being online and in the journaling space online, I have seen kind of how easy it is for this hobby to get out of hand and to start wanting to collect. And it can just lead to a lot of overconsumption sometimes if you're not careful. So I wanted to start small, and I mentioned in that video that I don't want to buy any fountain pens that are expensive this year because I'm so new to this hobby and because I've never really written with fountain pens in my journals. So I want to ease into it, and I wanted to start with a beginner fountain pen. And there's a number of different brands that people consider to be beginner fountain pens. The most notable ones that I can think of are Eco Sports, Glammy Safaris, and TWSBI Ecos. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones I'm missing. There's the Pilot Kakuno. There's, I think, the Platinum Preppy. I mean, there's a bunch of different starter pens out there. And so I recently got to try one of these starter pens in person, and I fell in love with it instantly. And so I knew that was the pen that I wanted to start with. And so that's what I'll be unboxing today. And I ordered from the Goulet pen company. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I think it's Goulet. But they are an online shop that sells fountain pens, inks, accessories, everything to do with pens. They have a huge, extensive ink sample collection as well that they sell. So that's why I was really drawn to Goulet. I knew I wanted to start with ink samples rather than a full-sized bottle of anything. Again, just so I can see what's compatible with the pen that I bought and what works well on the paper that I use and what tones that I kind of like. I just wanted to get an understanding of all of the different brands out there for inks and start familiarizing myself with that entire world. So rather than like going from 0 to 100 and buying a full-sized ink bottle, I wanted to start with samples. And so that's what really drew me to purchasing from Goulet. And so let's just get into it. I'm sorry if I dragged that on too long, but I just wanted to give some context. This took around a week to get to me. Okay. This is cute. Your order was packed with a slightly ridiculous amount of care by Brandon B. Thank you, Brandon. This is really nice. Oh, and it looks like it comes with some instructions on how to use different pen types. So that's really helpful. I will definitely keep this handy in my journal to reference. They also gave me this sticker with my order and a lollipop, a Tootsie Pop. That's cute. Okay. So I ended up purchasing a TWSBI as my first pen. This is the TWSBI Eco in a fine nib, and it is in the Smoke Rose Gold colorway. So it comes in this plastic box, and here it just has some red paper packaging around it, and it says Eco. I think it's TWSBI Eco, but I've seen some people pronounce it as TWSBI Eco, so correct me if I'm wrong. So it comes with this little bit of do's and don'ts. It also comes with a couple of things in here. So it comes with the pen, but it also comes with a little wrench and some silicone grease. And I believe that is to kind of lubricate the piston inside, if I'm not mistaken. I will probably watch some YouTube videos on how to do that properly. But let's just remove the pen first. And it looks like it says, do not wipe with alcohol. Not sure what that's about. But here is my TWSBI Eco. I ended up choosing the Smoke Rose Gold color. I love the rose gold detailing. Typically their pens have silver details, but I really liked how the rose gold looked. So I paid a little bit extra for this design. And on the back part of the pen, it says Eco RG Taiwan. This is a Taiwanese brand. And the top of the cap, you can see their logo there in red, which I actually really like that detail. And yeah, this is a screw cap. And it opens to this. So on the nib here, it has their logo kind of engraved. And below that, it says TWSBI again. And I think it's gorgeous. I really love the look of this pen. And I also just love how it feels in your hand. It looks very luxe, but it's actually not that heavy in your hand. It doesn't feel heavy to hold or difficult in any way. I think the size of it is perfect in my hand as well. I don't think I would want it to be any thicker than this. That would probably be uncomfortable for me to write with. But this is like the perfect width in my opinion. I do need to ink it up and actually write with it to fully get a feel for how heavy it's going to be. I do find this very comfortable to hold in my hand. And yeah, I thought the smoke was just gorgeous. It's a little hard to pick up on camera, but the black is a little bit translucent, so you can kind of see through the black. It's not a fully opaque black. So it truly is like a smoke-like quality. And I really liked that. I was debating between this, the cream rose gold, and then the cafe bronze rose gold. But I know I will always love this color. I always love black. I love the way that this had that slight translucency. And I also just think this would go with any ink color you put in here, because the ink is also going to be visible here. You know, the ink is exposed. So that way it wouldn't clash with the pen color, regardless of what ink I put in here. I was debating between the fine and the medium, because if you've seen my other videos, I like a thicker weight to my writing. And so I originally thought a medium would be perfect, but it seems like the TWSBIs already write broader than most fountain pens and thicker. So the fine actually does seem like it would suit my needs. Like, the fine is already quite bold in my opinion compared to other fountain pens that I've seen. And given that the paper I like to write on, Hobonichi paper, you know, the newest versions of the Sanzen paper are kind of finicky and there's a lot more feathering and bleed through. I just felt like a fine nib would be more compatible with that paper compared to a medium nib. So that's why I ended up going for the fine. I did also try a fine nib in person and that wrote really well. I loved the weight of it. So I knew that this would work well for me. And so that is the pen. I will take some time to set this up and ink it up, and we'll come back with some writing samples after I do that. But before getting into that, I wanted to show you the ink samples I got as well. Okay, so I got 5 different inks from 5 different brands. And these are all pretty popular brands in the fountain pen space. I've seen all of these mentioned by different creators, and I've seen writing examples of all of them, and I've loved all of them. So part of the reason why I got so many different ink samples is so that I could understand which brands I like, which tones I liked. These are all different tones. And I thought it would just be kind of a good introduction into inks. So I believe these are all 2 ml samples that Goulet Pens offers. The first one I got was Pilot Iroshizuku in Kirisame. And I know this one is discontinuing, so I definitely wanted to try it out and decide if I wanted to buy that ink before it's gone forever, because I love the way that this one looks. It looks like a brown, gray, pink color all in one. And I'll add pictures as I'm talking through these. It's just beautiful. I love how unique this tone is. So I'm excited to test it out. The next one I got is Diamine Earl Grey. I've heard so many creators talk about this one, and I love gray. So I knew I needed a good solid gray ink to try. I knew this one would be reliable. I also just love Earl Grey tea, so I had to get this one. The next one is Monteverde's Moonstone. This one I just felt had such a nice shift to it, and so I wanted to try out something with a shift to see how I felt about it and if it would even really show up with a fine nib. Plus, it's a beautiful brown tone. I knew this would just look great in my journal. So yeah, rather than having kind of like a flat brown, I wanted something a little more interesting, and Moonstone looked very interesting to me. Next we have Ferris Wheel Press's Moss Park Green. I just absolutely love this color. I've, again, seen so many writing samples of it and it's gorgeous. I love green. It's one of my favorite colors, if not my favorite. And yeah, I like that this one is not super saturated and bright. It's a very muted, neutral green. And so I know it will not clash with any of my pages or spreads, and that I would still enjoy to see that little hint of green peeking through. And then lastly, I had to try Cafe Crema by Robert Oster. Again, this one just has so much hype around it, I feel. So I'm curious to see how I feel about it. But yeah, I wanted to try a more like lighter toned ink as well to see if I prefer darker tones or lighter tones. So I picked this one as well. And so those are the 5 inks that I'm starting with, all from different companies. So it'll be really good to get an idea of what I like. And now to decide which one to start with. Which one do I ink up my pen with? You know, I think I want to start with Kirisame, actually. It is the one that I'm most interested in all of these. So I'm gonna start there. I've also heard the Pilot inks are more wet, so I'm curious to see how that does. So I will be right back. I'm going to set up my pen, do the silicone grease on it, and then fill it up with some ink, and we can start with the writing sample of the Kirisame. Okay, I've just inked this up with some Kirisame. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. I'm so sorry if I'm not. And let's just test this out. So I have my 2024 Hobonichi cousin here, and I've just opened to like the back pages just so I can test it on this Tomoe River paper. That is gorgeous. Let me bring it closer up, but hopefully you can see that. It's like a dusty grayish pink, slightly brown, but it more leans gray pink to me. And I love that color. I think it is so beautiful. I will also say the writing experience for this was so smooth. And that's why I got this pen is I tried it in person at Paper Plant Co. in Los Angeles, and it just writes so smoothly. I guess I'm someone who likes a smoother writing experience. I'm not one to like a lot of feedback because whatever fountain pens I've tried previously in my life had a lot of feedback. They felt really scratchy to me as I was writing, and I found that it made my writing feel really choppy, and it changed my handwriting, and it made it kind of look like chicken scratch. So I need a smoother nib and a smoother writing experience for my handwriting in particular, I think. So I really like how smooth the TWSBIs write in general. And this one is no exception. It wrote so easily. I love that my handwriting didn't change when writing with this. That was my biggest concern and biggest fear. And the weight of this, as you can see what I was saying, it's still quite bold, I think. It's not exactly like the sailor equivalent of a fine. I think TWSBI fines are still quite weighted, and I prefer that. I'm glad I didn't get the medium nib. I think that might have been a little too broad for this grid size. So I'm really happy with this. I have no complaints. That wrote really well. It was so easy to fill because this is a piston filler. It stores quite a lot of ink. So I know this is not going to run out anytime soon. And because I'm someone that likes to do long form journaling, I knew I would appreciate this ink capacity. I wouldn't want it to run out very quickly because sometimes I write like multiple pages at a time, and I don't want to have to deal with the ink ever drying out on me. From whatever I've seen from other TWSBI users, they've never had their pens dry out on them because of this ink capacity and because it just stays wet the entire time. And the screw cap also really helps keep it wet. So overall, I feel like this is really compatible for my needs. And I guess the cherry on top is that I love how it writes. I love how my handwriting looks with it. And yeah, like I said, filling up the ink was really easy. All I had to do was dip the nib in this ink sample bottle and screw the back at the end here so that it would slowly fill up with the ink. And it was that simple. I mean, it was really, really easy. The one hiccup I experienced was actually adding the silicone grease. The grease just wouldn't come out of the bottle, so I wasn't able to get any grease out to actually lubricate this piston. I hope that's not an issue. If any of you have TWSBI Ecos, I would love to know your experience in the comments. Were you able to add the silicone grease to your pen? Because I was not able to get any out of the bottle. I even cut it open more so that the dropper was wider and still nothing came out. So I hope that won't be an issue for me. I don't think it will be, but yeah, overall really happy with this pen, really happy with how it looks. I loved the exposed ink here. I love the rose gold detailing. And yeah, even with the ink, the pen is not super heavy. It's very light. It feels the same weight as my regular pen, actually. Maybe slightly heavier, but it's not noticeable. It's still really comfortable to write with. Fits in my hand really well. And yeah, I just love the way that this looks. So yeah, this is my first fountain pen. I'm so happy that it is this TWSBI Eco, and I'm going to see how this goes for the next few weeks, months, however long it takes to get accustomed to writing with a fountain pen before I even consider adding more to my collection. Like I said, I want to take it really slow, one pen at a time, and just, yeah, cherish this new pen in my life. I would love to hear in the comments what your favorite fountain pen is if you do use fountain pens. If you have a TWSBI Eco, I'd love to hear about your experience with it. What are your thoughts on it? What are some things that maybe I should be aware of getting into this? But I'd love to hear about your guys' fountain pen collections and maybe what your favorite pen is that you usually write with. I'd also love some ink recommendations. I am someone who really likes muted, kind of dusky inks. I don't like very colorful, saturated inks. So yeah, with that in mind, I would love some recommendations. I know this is kind of a shorter video than usual, but I had to share this new acquisition with you all because I'm really excited about it, and I know a lot of you are into fountain pens, so wanted to share the joy with you all. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.